that it works well, and sound should be better now because I just brilliantly turned on my microphone. Some days. Okay. I had it off because I didn't want to hear the feedback from the intro. Did you like the intro? Did you? I'd love to hear whether you liked my intro, because I really loved creating it, and it was fun, and it was just awesome. So I hope you like it. Now, going on to Facebook, because I want to make sure, pardon me, that I am live on Facebook. And then I'm going to check out YouTube. And I just want to make sure that all those things are working. So today, discussing why you don't need a lot of money. Now, remember, I was a single homeschooling mom for 14 years. And that meant going through 2 different custody battles, because I was, it's a long story for another day, where both kind of disputed my homeschooling. So that's also experience that I have. When 25 years ago, when I was really super active within the homeschooling community, I did many workshops through the library, and I was in London, Ontario at the time, and I'm just going to, I need to look at this here to try and bring this forward. I might have to move it over this way to make sure I'm hearing properly. Okay, so when I was doing these workshops, I loved it. And we had 30 to 50 people at each of the workshops, and I would do them annually. But I did a workshop on an introduction to home-based education, homeschooling through high school. I did single parent homeschooling workshops, and various other things as I was asked. So, okay, I found this. I'm going to put that comment in there so that people have the link. I'm just going to turn that on to see, and I can hear it.
It's just
okay. Awesome. It is a little bit of a delay, but I can turn that off now and pause this. And I like the fact that it's doing closed captions. I do nothing to make it do that. Okay, stop.
Just going to turn that on to see, and I can hear it. It's just
echoing. So all that experience has given me a sense of calm that I didn't have at the time. At the time, I was a radical unschooler who was an activist and always chomping at the bit to help families and children find the best way for them to learn. So that being said, let's move forward to how you can help your children learn, because I'm not a fan of the word teach, only because I can't make somebody's brain understand something. I can present it, I can explain it, I can try to help them visualize it, but I'm not inside that person's brain saying, click, here's the switch, you now understand this. I can't do that. But I can be a guide. I can accompany them on their journey. I can help clear away the obstacles to them understanding. And that's the way I see parents within the home-based educating community. That is all that entails. There are so many words and so many descriptive words that people use to label or classify themselves in the type of home educating that they do. But when it comes down to it, it's all about helping our children grow and learn and be happy, successful, depending on what that means to you, because that means different things to different people. Independent thinking people. Now, when I say that, it brings to mind the fact that France is trying to, they've made homeschooling illegal, and they're trying to be very strict about it, simply because they don't want their population to be independent thinkers. Nationally, they want the country's population to think and act alike, which is exactly why the government schooling was started in the first place in the early 1800s. So that's another story. Read the book Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto, and you can understand all of that. Next, let's take why it shouldn't cost a lot. So for one thing, I was that mom. I was that mom that went out and bought all the cool curriculum. I went to the homeschooling fairs and the curriculum fairs, and I went online to all the, at the time, there weren't too many out there, but yeah, it was mostly the homeschooling fairs. But now we have all this abundance of materials being thrown at us, and it's this much and it's that much, and it's, oh my gosh, I could spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on curriculum. When I went and bought all the cool curriculum, I thought, oh, I'm going to do this with her. Oh, I want to do this with her. I had not taken the time to really understand how my children learned. And what that meant was that I was going into these curriculum fairs and scoping out all the cool stuff and choosing the things that I wanted to do, the things that I thought would be fun, the things that I had interest in. And looking back, I'm glad I did it, but I did it for the wrong reasons. Yes, I wanted to pass on my passions to my children. Oh dear. That's interesting. One of my feeds seems to have been broken, but I'm going to see if I can find out what happened there. So first, think of what you would like as opposed to what your children would like. And you might be wasting money buying stuff that, although you might want to do it, your children might have no interest in it. I bought really cool workbooks. They did maybe 1 or 2, maybe 4 max pages, and then lost interest in it. So that's why it's so vital and critical that you get to know what things your children are interested in. Now, yes, you need to give them the opportunity to see things that they don't know exist. Absolutely. So, I mean, we mummified a Barbie doll, and it's still on YouTube somewhere. Yeah. And I mean, I took the opportunity to introduce these things to the kids, but taking the time to get to know the types of things that they like doing, I got lots of educational games because I wanted to be a participant in their learning. That being said, I shopped mostly at Goodwill. In London, there was a shop called Talese, and I would buy all the games there. It was really cheap. Or at the homeschooling swaps, where I bought all that wonderful curriculum at the homeschooling conventions, and then flipped it for things that my kids really wanted. As I became more wise into home educating and making sure it was what my kids loved. Because when you're doing something that you love and that you are really interested in, you are going to remember it better. You're going to retain it longer. And you're going to be wanting to do it more often. So, as opposed to putting something in front of a child and saying, okay, you have half an hour to do this, and then we'll move to something else. And so while many children might do well with that style of learning, not all do. I had one daughter who was wholeheartedly crazy academic and couldn't get enough. She went to German language school on Saturday mornings. She was 4. She had a huge interest in the German language because her Oma and Opa spoke it at home when she went to visit them. And so she wanted to get better and understand what they were saying. So when I took her to the German language school, which was inexpensive, and language learning doesn't have to be expensive. One of the other things I did was start hosting international students. Will happen again next year. I'm confident that we will have international students back again. And hosting an international school student, one, you get paid. You get a stipend for hosting the student. It may not always be a lot. If you're in Rotary, it's different because it's an exchange or a free thing that they offer. But if you're with another agency, and there's a ton of agencies, you can have a student from another country come and live in your home with you. And that's an excellent way for your children to learn a language or correspond with somebody. There are lots of pen pals still out there. But my story about my daughter was her going to this Saturday morning classes, and she was put in the kindergarten level because she was 4. They didn't take into account that she was doing things at a grade 4 level already in English. So the kindergarten class was really boring for her. After the 3rd week, she said, "Mom, I don't want to go anymore." And when I asked her why not, she said, all they do is play. I don't learn anything there. So that was a shock to my radical unschooling. And I had to accept that they weren't going to budge. They refused to put her in the grade 1 classes. And so she didn't continue with that. Now, that being said, we had all sorts of great books that we found at the used bookstores, which are very inexpensive. And I found that by volunteering at book sales and other things like that were around. Now, I mean, we have so many opportunities with Facebook groups and other platforms like Reddit, where you can swap and exchange curriculum, that they don't have to be super expensive. Your children will not care if you got the most updated curriculum or books on whatever it is they're interested in. The encyclopedias. Encyclopedias are super huge, and kids can look through them and find what, if they're looking for something specific. I like giving my kids the encyclopedias first and say, here, try to find it here. And then in the process of trying to for, they end up finding other things that are super interesting. So, and that gives us a lot of more things to add to our toolbox and our what do we do next week kind of thing. So I've found that encyclopedias are awesome for that reason specifically. Okay. So we've done some language stuff there. I'm still trying to connect my speakers. So please let me know if you can hear me. That's a kind of an important thing for me to make sure is working. And again, please be a guest on the show. Love to have you. So there's a few points that so we've talked about language learning. There are lots of other ways. So I've just given you a few ideas that you can label things in your house that are in the other language. To get my children writing, I kind of played a trick on them. I said, okay, we're going to have a special day, a silent day. So if we want to talk to each other, we have to write notes. Now, for the younger ones, it was kind of like a Pictionary. And so that was fun. But for the older ones, it was great because it gave us the opportunity to explore what they could write and what they couldn't write. And because I participated as well, nobody in the house was talking. And I had a ton of little pads of paper that I've collected from all sorts of places. And we just wrote notes to each other about everything all day, no talking at all. And then we had a big party the next day where we had laughing party and as primal scream therapy. And so they were able to get their vocal systems back. We did one day where all we did was sing to each other. So whatever you had to say to somebody else had to be done in like a singing way. So those are fun things that you can do with your kids. And yeah, so that helped a lot with writing. We might do it once a month. The kids ended up really enjoying it. And that being the case too, we had a friend's family, a friend of ours family, their son was deaf. So writing notes to each other when he was around too was always great. And of course, we did learn sign language. So all my kids know some basic sign language. All right. So, and those are all things that do not cost anything. If you're already paying for the internet and you have good reception, you can look up these things or how to sign things. Kids love signing songs. Find out what their favorite song is, look it up on YouTube and see if somebody has done a sign version of it. Also, you can do something like this where they will see the closed captions of what they're saying on it. Now, talking about writing, this is now a really good time to talk about writing, and I'm going to switch to a scene here after I open up this window because November is National Novel Writing Month. NaNoWriMo is what it's called, NaNoWriMo. And if you go to ywpNaNoWriMo.org, which I'm also going to put in the comments, there. Thank you for persevering. Okay, so there's in Facebook the link to the Young Writers Program. And they have camps and all sorts of things. I spoke a little bit about this last week where a mom had asked me how to get their children writing more. And I said, it has to be relevant. It has to be something that is meaningful to the child and has a purpose. Because if it doesn't have a purpose, then they're not going to want to write. And if they think that everything they write is being critiqued, then that might make them feel like they don't want to write either. When you're on the phone and your kids just pester you like crazy because they want your attention when you're on the phone. I did that on purpose sometimes to get their attention. I would pretend that I was on the phone and they would come up and ask me something. And I would say, "Oh, sorry, I have to go. I will talk to you later." And I'd hang up. So that was one way to get their attention. So think about that in other ways. So let's say you want them to improve their handwriting. Well, what better way could there be than if you sat down at the table and took out your pen? Now, I personally prefer using a fountain pen. And so I have this beautiful one I got in Gatlinburg, Tennessee at an art fair. So there's that one. And then I found out that Lee Valley, now we have one in Niagara at Montrose Road, Lee Valley. They do fountain pen and gel pen making classes. So I made this one. I turned the wood myself and made this pen myself. So you can get really reasonable fountain pens. If you don't want to spend the money on fountain pens, then get a feather. When you're out on a walk, you can find feathers from birds that have fallen off. You can. And that's what people used to use a long time ago to write ink. We went out for a walk one day and we ended up just gonna put that in there. we ended up finding a mulberry tree in the middle of the park that we were going walking in, and the kids were stained with mulberries for a long time. But what we did was we ended up going back the next day with Ziploc bags and baskets, and the kids collected all the mulberries. So they collected all the mulberries and they brought them home, and we made our own ink. And we smashed those mulberries, and again, they got stained and messy, and it was all like the magic school bus. And so we made our own ink. The kids got small twigs, and we used a knife carefully to whittle them down to sharp points. And they practiced writing and drawing with the sticks and the ink that they had made themselves, and it was fabulous. So you don't need expensive gear to have those types of experiences. And even with teenagers. So if you sit down and do something creative or interesting, just like being on the phone. I mean, that's not very interesting, but they think, you're occupied, so they want your attention. If you start doing it, they're going to notice. They're going to want to see what you're doing, why you're doing it, because kids copy. That's how they learn to talk, right? That's how they learn everything, is by watching us. So I sat down with my pen and some lined paper, and I practiced my handwriting. And my kids came up and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I really want to have better handwriting, because when my handwriting is better, people will value what I have to say. If I scribble, people won't want to read it. They won't want to take the time. And so the important thing that I want to say isn't going to be listened to. So that's not good." So as soon as they saw me doing it, they wanted to try it. So we were able to have this, and it was like over the course of several weeks, and then ongoing. Whenever they wanted to do it, I kept all the supplies in a clear plastic box on the shelf, and Dollarama homeschool forever. It's great. So yeah, like jugs. Let's say you buy, I know a family, they buy big jugs of oil, or cleaning fluids, the large family style. And if they don't want to go out and buy a container, they will just cut the bottom out and wash it and have that as a little basket on the shelf. So we throw out a lot of stuff that we could be using, like turning a jug upside down, cutting around and using it as a funnel, or, I see a ton of things on TikTok. Seriously, you see the young people sharing ideas on how to do it yourself, using bottle caps, using jugs, using all sorts of things to create something that's usable. And being able to turn things around in your head and make use of it in a different way creates critical thinking so that when your children look at a regular everyday object, they might see 10,000 different things that they could do with that object. So does not have to be expensive. So that's the writing section I wanted to talk about, but I haven't gone to the website yet to show you this. So let me, hopefully this will work. Yay, it's working. I'm so happy. Okay, wait a second. Here, I'm going to get this. Get down here. I just have to edit this for a second so that it works a little better. And okay, I'm gonna make myself a little smaller. And gee, I wish I could do that in real life. All right, so here we are. National Novel Writing Month. So this is the YWP NaNoWriMo. Your story matters. So true. So on here, what is NaNoWriMo? National Novel Writing Month. For young writers, only you can tell your story. So some kids have a challenge writing a lot. And here, for this program, for this participation thing, they can choose the number of words that they're going to write for their novel. On average, now I don't love grade levels, but if you have a child in grade 4, then the average is 4,000 words. Over the course of 30 days, that's not a lot. If they have trouble writing it down, let them dictate it to you. You write it down. It's time that you can spend together. Or they can draw a picture and tell you about the story of the picture, and that can be part of their story. You can do voice to text on your phone, and do that. And then they can still write their novel, even if they're young. I've had kids as young as 3 and 4 write novels for National Novel Writing Month. So I'm going to go into the resources here for writers. So here, let's show you the wonderful things that they have. So the workbook, they're free. They're free. You can download them. You can print them off yourself. Hey, Ken, great to see you. I'm so glad you're joining. So yeah, here, these are downloadable PDF files. We intuitively know that there's something significant about us. Absolutely. Every single person has something significant. And Ken, thank you for bringing that out. So they have a high school version, they have a middle school version, and they have an elementary school version. So you can go in there and download those free of charge. So it's awesome. You can also join up for the pep talks from very good, awesome writers. And you can get swag if you want to, but we're talking about keeping it costs down here. So yeah, there's all sorts of events going on. You can join in and participate in chats and so many things. So I have a bunch of kids that I lead on this. So the educators part of it is very interesting as well. Just going to go back up here and go back into the resources. So parents, here are some resources for you. They have lesson plans for K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12. And then, of course, they have these other things. Then they have the classroom kits where, and you can just write this out yourself. You don't need to buy it. There are some free ones that you can get. So you can go in and get those, of course, and keep track of it. Now, if you yourself want to do your own novel, you can do it here with your kids, which is great, because then you can have like, okay, it's NaNoWriMo time. We're all going to sit down and write our novels. And at the end of it, there's you have the opportunity to print digital and wrong. I was supposed to be going back to this. So the Kindle Direct Publishing, print, self-publish in digital and print. So yeah, there's all sorts of really awesome things. So there's the reading and writing portion of what I wanted to talk about today. There's two more portions, and they come in the areas of numbers and counting, and you don't need pages and pages of math questions to learn the concepts of numbers. I taught, and I hate that word, I liked putting Roman numerals on things, and I like doing things backwards. So my kids learned Roman numerals before they learned regular numbers, because 1 is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 3, and then the rest, the V is a 5. So if it's 1 before 5, it's 4. So there's a whole bunch of different concepts in there. Also, somebody had asked a question about multiplication. You do not need to buy fancy things off of anywhere for multiplication. I did up on squared paper, and if you don't have squared paper, that's okay. Take a ruler and a pencil and a piece of paper and draw your own lines on it, of 144 little squares, and 1 to 12 across the top, 1 to 12 across the bottom, and then do it with your child, or do it so that your child can see you doing it, and then they'll want to do it. If they don't, then don't make them. But if you do it, once in a while, every couple of weeks, and they see you doing it, hey, you could probably time yourself and see how fast you can fill out the whole thing. And then when my kids were interested in that kind of thing, they would want to compete with me to see how fast they could fill it out too. So then you see what they're really good at, where they need help, that kind of thing. Clocks, multiplication and clocks. Wow, did I ever come late to this conversation? One, I do not know my times tables. I never learned them. So doing those pages with my kids was fun. But a clock, I knew that when it was 25 after 3, the hand would be, the minute hand would be at the 5, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. But it never dawned on me that 5 times 5 is 25. So when it was at 35, it's 7 times 5, because it was at the 7, and it just, yeah. So 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 5 is 10, and it's at the 10-minute mark. 3 times 5 is 15. So I never saw that before I started homeschooling. I discovered that from another homeschooler who taught me that I could do this. I'm like, well, yeah. So now it comes really easily. And then there's, of course, all those finger games for like the 9 times tables. And if you write 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you will have the 9 times table next to it. Yeah, that was the other trick. And yeah, the 9 times one with your hands is 1 times, I can't hold that down, but 1 times 9 is 9. 2 times 9 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, and like, what? Yeah, learning that was a major adjustment for me, and being able to share those fun games with my kids. Clocks, you don't need to buy a book on clocks. You don't need to buy a clock. You can take a paper plate. You can take a cereal box, cut out a circle, use a plate, draw around it, draw the numbers on it, put the pencils on it, or the pieces of paper to mark the time, and play with it. You can set goals or a timer to help get things done. If anybody remembers the Big Comfy Couch, and they did the 10-second tidy. So in 10 seconds, you'd pick up as many things as you can and put them in a bin. And so there's all sorts of ways that are inexpensive to bring those concepts into your children's lives. How many stairs do they have to go upstairs to bed? Can they count them? Can they jump up them 2 at a time? That's one of the great things about hopscotch too. You can use hopscotch. Everybody's got, Dollarama sidewalk chalk, and if you don't, you can make it yourself. There's all sorts of things that you can do DIY that don't cost a lot. So those are some tips and tricks, and I would love to hear yours. Please let me know in the comments, either on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or Periscope. If you're watching this and you're home educating and you've got a trick that you use to help your children understand something better, please share it, because we want to help other people and ourselves. And we don't want to have to. Learning is natural. It shouldn't cost a lot of money. It's observation, time spent, and loving each other enough to take the time with each other. All right, so I am done for today. It is, let's see, it is 4:12. I will be going on Zoom. If anybody wants to have a conversation after this, I will be on Zoom. I'm going to open this up now and give you the Zoom link to join me. So I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And I'm going to put on my closing. Bye for now, everybody.